Welcome back to Between Sundays, the podcast where Christians are trying to figure things out where most of life happens. I'm Bobby.
I'm Justice.
And today we are talking about why it is such a struggle to stay consistent with God in our prayer life, maybe in our Bible study. Kind of digging into that today. And I know, I think last season talked a little bit about that in an episode, but kind of coming from a little bit different perspective of today of not just giving you the routine or the habits, but why maybe on a deeper level, why we have those inconsistencies. So kind of looking forward to it today. Maybe something that'll challenge you, help you a little bit. And thankful for what God did last week on the big episode with Brother Brent. And we hope every one of you have had a chance to listen to that or watch it. If you haven't, go check it out. Or if you're still taking it in bite by bite, little by little, since it was 2 hours, we understand that too. But we were very excited and thankful for what God did in the studio through that episode. I think it was a big day.
It was a good episode.
Yeah, it really was. I think it was just a good chance for everybody to hear his heart and kind of, again, what is Brother Brent like when it's not the suit and the tie and on the stage preaching. So definitely, again, I think a good show for all that. So
I wore my overalls last week, and I unlocked the door for him here at the church. And,
yeah.
He's like, man, I should have worn my overalls. I was like, I told you, dress casual. His casual was still khakis and a polo. He said, this is as casual as Katie will let me leave the house.
I know. So. It's funny when we line up chapel preachers or people like that for the school, and you tell them casual. And the level of casual for everybody is it's
all different.
It's all different. I remember there was a preacher we told one time, it's like, dress casual, and he's like, all right. He's like, that's good. I have to dress up at church all the time, and literally was still dress slacks and button down in an overcoat or dress coat, and I was like, I thought it was casual. He's like, well, I don't have my tie on. I was like, okay, well, I'm glad you can breathe a little bit today. So,
no, I'm the type of person that I have to have. My casual can vary. If it's like, all right, if it's casual, but it's this, it might be sweatpants and a t-shirt, it might be jeans and a t-shirt, it might be jeans and a polo.
Yeah.
There's casual is one of those can be interpreted many different ways.
Yeah. It's kind of like how I've heard people joke about women have this talk of like where they repeat a word twice. And it's like there's casual and then there's casual. It's like, that extra emphasis. I think casual's the sweatpants and the T-shirt and all that stuff. And then casual's just that. There's a little range because mine's the same way. Like this could be casual, or jeans with it or different things. So,
I've got a lot of grass. This is grass cut right here.
This is the grass cut.
I wish this was casual. This is comfortable. But this is grass cut.
This is that. It's this time of year outfit right here for all the grass cutting.
This is we have to plan these episodes around when I'm cutting grass.
Yes.
Because if we don't, it's like I'm like just can't breathe.
I know you usually have to have like a recovery day. After the grass and everything.
I have found that yesterday I cut the big field and my allergies were so messed up. I mean, I was miserable. So I went into one of our bathrooms here and got a paper towel and just put water in my hands and just soaked just put my face in the water.
Yeah.
And it felt so good.
Oh, I bet so.
So now every time I do that, I'm going to have to go just blink a couple times.
I remember
in a
the day you and Casey were like blowing off, I think, the pavilion. And it was like the next day, both of y'all were just...
Oh, we were blowing it off with the leaf blowers, and it was like just yellow cloud. I mean, we were sending smoke signals with pollen out there.
Yeah. Which I hate this time of year, too. It's all over the place. So, But, it is that time, one of those things. Of course, most of the time, I think this time of year is like, it's fun with the school is that they're ready for the school year to be done and all that good stuff. So that's what I'm seeing out of our students as well. Everybody checking out, getting ready for that time of year. But we do, again, hope you guys have enjoyed so far up to season 2. We've been thankful for the topics that we've got into.
Episode 20 today.
Episode 20. I know that's.
I lose track until I look over and I see what I was like, man, episode 20.
I know. I realized that today when I was kind of putting it all together, and realize we hit the 2 in front of the episode number, so that's exciting. I think 25 we should do something fun. It might be,
maybe some confetti cannons.
maybe confetti cannons. Yeah, as long as we don't have to clean it up, we'll let Casey do it or something like that. So,
well, that sounds fair.
But today, again, why do we struggle with being consistent with God? A lot of people ask that a lot of times. We talk with teenagers all the time, and it's this question of, how do I stay consistent in either Bible reading? How do I stay consistent in my prayer life? How do I stay consistent in maybe even, attending church or youth group, things like that? And they find themselves consistent in a lot of other areas. And I think that's pretty true. I mean, we all know things that we're, like dead on. We don't miss it. But it can feel like with our spiritual side of life, that can be an inconsistent thing sometimes. And I've talked with teens before, and I was like, I don't think it's that you don't have a desire to be consistent. It's just, are we going about it the right way? Not necessarily that they're lazy, which can be the case sometimes. I've talked with students before of like, look, you just got to stop playing video games, or you got to go to bed a little sooner so you can get up earlier.
It's not a consistency problem. It's just a you don't want to problem.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference in inconsistency and just lazy, just not wanting to do it. But today's not the lazy side of things. Just what are things that maybe are getting in the way of being consistent? But on a deeper level, is it just we've made it more habit? It's amazing. I've talked with people before that the structure of things are there, but the growth isn't coming with it. And so that's kind of what we're getting into today of we got to have the habits, we've got to have the structure, we need to have the things that are in place for consistency, but is the depth of it there? The hunger for it, that desire to grow in it, to make sure it's more than just checking off a box. I think why this kind of hits home a little bit is, I know, like, for me, I grew up in a Christian school. I mean, that's all I've known from K-3 is either being in a Christian school or now working at a Christian school or whatever it may be. But so I was in my Bible all the time, in chapel services, all this stuff. But it just kind of became habit after too long.
Yeah.
It's just something that you did each and every single day or every week. And so today's kind of getting into that of what does our hunger look like? What does the depth of it look like in our life? Again, not that we don't care about it, but is it something deeper? Is it something that's keeping us from really hungering for it to where we want to see change in our life?
There's a very common saying that motivation will take you so far, but discipline will take you farther than you ever could make it on motivation.
Yeah.
I see a lot of times with people struggling with the spiritual side of staying consistent. I think too many times the quit aspect is normalized instead of the this is tough, but I keep going side.
Yeah.
Again, this is something that the hunger for a lot of Christians is there. And the reason the hunger for a lot of Christians, I should say, the hunger for every Christian that wants to get closer to the Lord is there, is because you have something now living on the inside that is wanting and longing to be fed. It's when the Bible talks about hungering after righteousness, you're desiring things that are of Christ because the Spirit that is now in you. A lot of times we have a lot of spirits that are malnourished because we've just neglected to continue feeding it.
Yeah.
It's never your spiritual growth doesn't happen by you being a good person or you being someone that goes to church and tries to do the right thing. Your spiritual growth happens when you truly make a decision that I want to draw closer to the Lord. We can talk about sustaining your faith all day, But today's episode is more talking about staying consistent and growing that faith. We have a lot of teenagers, young people that have hit a spiritual plateau, and they're going through their week to week, their day to day, sustaining that spirit instead of growing.
Yeah.
And it's something that you have to, of course, work at, but at the same time, you have to realize that one of the hardest things you'll have to do in this flesh is mind spiritual things. And we've given up too many times on other things to try to make this a natural occurrence where we can, go without reading our Bible or go without praying. And a lot of times we see things suffer because of it. There's not anybody that we don't talk to that, hasn't dropped the ball a lot of times on spiritual growth when they're having struggles and they're not knowing what to do with that struggle. Growing spiritually doesn't mean you're not having struggles. Oftentimes it's, I know why I'm having a struggle.
Yeah.
But my fear with a lot of it is just a lot of, we've gotten really good at getting by.
Yeah.
And we reap what we sow. And if we reap mediocre or getting by, if we sow mediocre or getting by, we're going to reap mediocre or getting by.
Yeah.
And so really trying to take yourself to the next level with saying, I'm intentional, but I need to be more intentional.
Yeah.
And that was something that I was good at. Preachers are good at preparing for a sermon when they've got to preach. And, Christians are good at reading their Bible when they need something. And we're good at praying when we need something. But staying that consistent course, and really, you can't stay consistent and not grow, but you can stay semi-consistent and sustain.
Mm-hmm.
And really hitting that consistent point and seeing that growth as a Christian is a good thing. But a lot of times we cut ourselves short and we never see that growth because we haven't normalized that this isn't easy, but we've normalized that, I can make it on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the big things as you aim to grow in the Lord, to put those things in place, to be consistent, step back and ask yourself, what is my goal in this?
Yeah.
What is my desire? Because, again, you're talking about sustaining or maintaining things. I look at a business, if they're trying to sustain or maintain a certain thing, they're pretty steady doing the same things all the time, but the desire is just to stay there.
Yeah.
Not to grow more. And I would dare to say there's people out there that, they may be a little consistent in their YouVersion app or things like that, but the question is are they just doing enough to sustain, or are they doing what they can to see growth through it?
Yeah.
And you referenced that verse in Matthew chapter 5 of having a hunger and a thirst for things. And it's in that hunger and that thirst that we say, okay, I can't stop doing what I'm already doing, but what else do I do to get further,
Yeah.
to grow closer to the Lord? Not just, like you said, getting by, not just going through the motions and making it look like I'm good at where I'm at or anything like that, but saying, all right, I want to stay consistent, but I don't want to just stay consistent to stay in the same place. I want to see consistency so that I can grow in this, so that I can push myself a little further and dig deeper in the Bible, or, pray longer in my prayer life, or be more intentional in my prayer life, whatever it may be. But it's got to, that consistency has to be paired with that thirst, that hunger to do something more or to get more from God.
Yeah.
I look at, he said it so many times in his testimony, but Brother Mike Hawkins, our children's pastor around here, and he was talking about living his life for God. He was saved, but I think at the time he was driving a Pepsi truck or something like that. And he said what really made the difference is when he fell in love with God, and just that desire and that hunger grew in his life.
Yeah.
And you saw somebody that was faithful to God in a lot of ways before him, but just like you said, just maintaining this this certain level of his life. But it was when that was paired with that hunger, with that thirst for God, is when the growth really started happening in his life. And of course, you see, he stepped out and became an Awana missionary, and God used him tremendously over the last close to 40 years. But again, what is our I think it's that, what is our goal behind it? Are we just doing things to maintain, check off boxes, just to say we've gone through the app or whatever it may be? Or is it saying, God, I want to develop these things because I do genuinely have a desire to get closer to you?
No, that's great. I think we have this cycle that we do of, my goal is to read my Bible.
Yeah.
And we make that a goal. And I don't want to make it sound like that's a bad goal to have. But this is what happens, because it's happened to me I don't know how many times. I'm going to start reading my Bible. And then you get to a day, a few days, a week, and you fall off, and then you feel guilty, and then it's a wonder, well, when am I going to start this back up again? Something will happen and you start back over. I think we need to start setting our goal as growing closer to God.
Yes.
When you set the goal, again, this is something I coach basketball, and a lot of my guys, I would tell them, I would rather you aim for something out of reach.
Yeah.
And something you don't think you can attain, and you miss that, than you hit what you were aiming at, which was just getting by.
Yeah.
And, you can say, my goal is to be the absolute best Christian I can be today. Well, that includes reading your Bible and praying and loving your neighbor and not putting anything before Christ. And you might have a day where you've fallen short in one of those categories, but you are still more pleasing to Christ than you just trying to get by.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it boils down to, is we've got not the wrong intentions.
Mm-hmm.
We have the wrong goals.
Yeah.
And what are we trying to set ourselves up for? Are we trying to set ourselves up for more Bible reading, or are we trying to set ourselves up for growing closer to Christ?
Yeah.
Because I can read my Bible and not get nothing from it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I can pray, but at the same time, I can pray without faith and it do nothing. So, what is your goal with your life? Is your goal to get closer to the Lord? And I think all of us have that goal, but that's as far as we get. It's a goal.
Yeah.
It's never something that we actually continue doing.
Yeah.
But it's this idea that you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But you've got to have a long-term goal in place.
Yeah.
And one goal I've heard is, I want to be closer to God, for Him to use me in any way He needs to make my life count for something. And living in that readiness always is a good place to live.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely one of those things you got, like you said, you got to have the starting points. We all got to have those things. Yeah. I mean, in anything that you're looking to do that is not a normal part of your life, or something that you're trying to make better, it's like, again, if you go work out, say you've never been to a gym before.
Yeah.
And you've never done a workout routine.
Shout out Chance, by the way. He's been going to the gym, and I'll kind of piggyback off this. I was there the other day. He's one of our kids in our youth group.
Yeah.
And he was like, I couldn't get the bar on this like a month ago. And we put 25s on each side, and he did reps with that and was like, wow, I couldn't do.
Yeah.
but he was, he had to get over that part of, I've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You've got to have the starting points. I mean, again, if you never go, obviously you'll never see the progress of it. Yeah. You know, like that. If he never kept pushing, but obviously, I mean, you were pretty steady in the gym. You know, there's
doesn't look like it, but I try to.
But you know, I remember the other day you were talking about you were leaving the office and you're like, okay, I'm pushing for this weight today or goal or whatever it may be on the bar. Yeah. And so obviously what started as a, man, I got to do this because if I don't, I'll never do it. Mm-hmm. I got to have the starting point, turned into a long-term thing. Yeah. A desire to do a new personal best or things like that. And very much, and I tell our teens this all the time, there's so much of this spiritual life that we do it in other areas without thinking. Yeah. But we make this thing like it's the hardest thing to do. Yeah. Like we know what consistency looks like in other areas of our life. We know what starting things looks like. We know it's like it amazes me how we disconnect this from so many other things, but we do it without thinking in other areas of our life. And then we get to this, like, I just don't know why I can't do this.
Think about gym, homework, schoolwork.
We can.
I mean, cooking a meal, waking up in the morning, it's all the same. It's just labeled differently.
Yeah, just apply it to this. If we took the principles we do in so many other parts of our life and apply it to our Christian life, like we would just win this whole world over in no time. I mean, honestly. Yeah. But I mean, again, you've got to have the starting points, but like you said, you got to have the goal. And if it's the right goal, it's naturally going to push you. Yeah. I look at, again, that verse that we referenced. It said, blessed are those that hunger and thirst. Guess what? If I'm hungry, you don't have to wonder if I'm going to go find something to eat. Yeah. Like, it's just going to happen, you know? And if I miss a meal or I go longer, then I'm going to make up for it. Yeah. And I believe it's the same way with, it needs to be with God's Word. Like you said, we may miss it every once in a while. We may not have a day that is as consistent as others. But if my goal is to grow closer to God, like you said, then I'm going to do what's necessary to get back on track. Yeah. If my goal is just to check a box, I'll find myself starting to make excuses and justify why I missed that mark. And so you're right. It's not just making the habits to make the habits. It's asking ourselves, what's the goal?
Don't make God a task that you have to do in the day.
Yes.
Don't make him something that you've got to carve out time for. Don't make him something that you've got to you're going to have to force yourself to do it, but don't do it because you forced yourself to do it. Yeah. Do it because you have a desire to grow closer. Yeah. We have a lot of task-oriented people at where we work and at home where we live, and everybody likes to have a job and get it done. But so many times, instead of living without Christ, we try to live with Christ and make him just this task. Yeah. And we've got to reach the point where, me talking to you on a daily basis isn't a task. It's communication. Yeah. And don't look at you get in the mindset of reading Bible, and when we say checking a box, we're meaning you've made it a task. Yeah. You've made it the same priority as doing the laundry. Yeah. Right? Check it off. Fed the dog today. Check it off. Mm-hmm. Read my Bible. Check it off.
It's just the chore chart.
That's all it is. And we have Christians longing for more, but they've got a Christian chore chart. Mm-hmm. And I'm nice to people because I'm supposed to be nice. Well, you just checked off the chore chart. You weren't nice because you wanted to be nice. You were nice because and everybody's heard it. I love that person because Jesus told me. Well, then you don't actually love that person. You're just saying that out loud to make yourself feel better. But we've got we've got a Christian chore chart, and if not careful, we will treat God as a task, and no one likes doing laundry. No one likes doing dishes. No one likes taking the trash out. No one likes reading their Bible. No one likes praying.
Mm-hmm.
And we start falling into the same mindset that this is just a burden and I ain't got time for it right now. Because we've got TikTok, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got everything else pulling for our attention. Instead of making the main thing, it's dangerous to live in the chore chart mindset.
Yeah. Well, you just referenced all those things. I mean, the question we got to get to is why is it more of a chore and not a hunger?
Yeah.
Why is it more of just a task rather than something that, and again, you think about it like this: if it is a hunger or a thirst, it allows us to view it from a thing of I have to have this.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I gotta have food. I gotta have water. Yeah. And so if it's chores, we can just say, I'll do that later. But if it's something that we hunger for, and so if we're finding that our Bible reading or our prayer life or our consistency in living for God, if we find it more to be just something we check off the boxes and not a true hunger, what are we getting full on?
Yeah.
Is it social media? Is it all these things that we're consuming on a daily basis? Here's the thing. It's like I joke with my boys, or we've heard it. I say joke, but I mean we've heard it. You probably heard it when you was a kid. I heard it. You ever, mom or somebody's cooking a meal, and they tell you, "Hey, don't eat all that. You're gonna ruin your appetite.
Yeah.
You'll mess up your appetite." And I think a lot of it is we consume so much other things that it just kind of ruins our appetite for what God has. There's no shortage of things that we can ingest in the day.
Yeah.
Social media, all these things that we
Problems.
see, problems, all this stuff of life. There is no shortage of things that we can snack on or ingest throughout the day that before we know it, we're just full.
Yeah.
We've hit our limit, and then, oh, by the way, I got to go read my Bible.
Yeah.
And so we wonder why we're not wanting to take it in, or we're not wanting it to be a part of our life. Well, maybe because we're just getting too full on everything else, rather than making that the priority of the day. And so again, you've got to have the habits, right? You've got to have those things that help you. Don't throw those things away. You got to, like you said, you've got to start somewhere. But are your habits allowing you to create a greater hunger, or are they just something that we're doing kind of in autopilot, checking off the list for the day? Your habits for the gym, I'm sure they're meant to create a either greater desire to grow in strength, or your habits are to help you hit the next mark. You're intentional with those things. I'm sure you don't just go into the gym and be like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, let me just pick out a machine and do whatever. You have habits in place that are for the goals that you have. Same with this. We've got to have the habits, but those habits need to help us create a greater hunger and thirst for what God has for us.
Well, consistency with anything causes you to grow.
Yeah.
There comes a point where you've plateaued with something, then you need to grow more from it. The way you do that is just consistency.
Yeah.
And perfection isn't something we're striving to be the perfect Christian.
Yeah.
We're striving for not quitting and continuing in what you are supposed to do is how you grow as a Christian, is how your walk grows. Setting that goal as, people may set a goal of, I want to read my Bible through in a year. But, if your goal is, this year I want to be the best Christian I can be. And again, we one of the the greatest goals that I have in my life is I want to get to heaven and God say, congratulations, you lived a comfortable life. That's not what I want Christ to say. I don't want to get to heaven and him say, you got by and I'm proud of you. It's not what I want. We've got the spiritual mindset. We've got to have the spiritual mindset of that this isn't the end of the road. This isn't home.
Yeah.
And that's why Paul, when he writes and he says, I've finished my course, is from birth to death, he was here to please God. And after that, heaven. But when we prepare ourselves to stay here, what are we actually gaining? And it's a humbling reality of life.
Yeah.
Is this it's a good thing, but this isn't what I have to live for.
Yeah.
There is something else out there. And make your spiritual goal being one day when I see Christ, I want him to be proud of me.
Yeah.
He's not going to be proud of you because he's not going to be more proud of you because you checked off your Christian chore chart.
Yeah.
He's going to be proud of you for finishing your course.
Yeah.
And that's what Paul was striving for, was, I have ran my race, I've finished my course, I've kept the faith.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of people that one day can't say that. And I don't want that to be my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to be able to say, I tried, but I just didn't keep the faith.
Yeah.
And that's a good long-term, I know it's kind of a daunting, but that's kind of a good long-term goal.
Yeah. It keeps a focal point. That's the thing.
You're not living for tomorrow. You're living for heaven.
Yeah.
And I made a Facebook post a long time ago, and it was something that I was thinking about that day was, we believe Christ is coming back, but we prepare so much to stay here.
Oh. And
when we live the life of ease and we live a life of, I'll do it tomorrow, what are we really living for?
Yeah.
So setting that mindset, your goal needs to be consistency, and consistency doesn't mean never missing. It means never quitting.
Yeah.
And be consistent, be intentional with your walk. I know we're coming up. Everybody's intentional and consistent after revivals and youth meetings and everything like that. But life happens. We start allowing ourselves to, which you said earlier, ingest other things.
Mm-hmm.
We start getting full on ourselves and our problems and our hobbies and what we want, and we don't cut out time for Christ. And I say we don't cut out time. We don't give him the time that he deserves.
Yeah.
And we feel like we have to cut out time. And we fall off again. And really just staying consistent is just not quitting.
Yeah.
Say at the end of your life, I kept the faith.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those. I was thinking about something. You was talking about carving out time or giving time. And again, I know maybe I'm just a Baptist and I'm thinking about food. I don't know, but we talk
it is
about,
lunchtime and I'm hungry.
It is lunchtime, but
it's breakfast.
Yeah, sometime, whatever time you're listening. But we talk about hunger and thirst, and I can't help but think of, they talk about breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and basically, having that and then
Yeah.
everything else being off of that. And really, that's how God needs to be. I mean, and getting in the Bible and getting in our prayer time with Him, it's not, it's kind of like what you're talking about. It ain't just fitting Him in, not just, I'll carve it out. No, it's give Him the time, and then everything else is off of that.
Yeah.
But again, if that's not the goal, if that's not the thing we're hungering for, then we're just gonna, like you said, we're gonna just find time somewhere else. And
we make time for whatever we want to make time for.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. We do we live this Christian life in so many other areas but the Christian life.
Yeah.
Like we live life the right way in so many other things, and we do what's necessary for success in so many other areas but the Christian life.
Yeah.
And if we just take what we naturally do in other places and apply it to this, we'd be amazed at what.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, I mean, just live it out how you do everything else in this, and you'd be amazed at where our Christian life could be. But I think the big thing, just kind of bringing all this to a point today, kind of as we wrap up with it, is I think you said at the beginning of if we had to have this reset, if we're wondering why things aren't consistent, if we're going in this endless cycle of I'm doing good, not doing good, now I'll quit. Now I'll start back again, doing good, not doing good, I'll quit. How do we reset with that? I think the biggest thing, and you said it earlier, is maybe today ask yourself, what is the goal? Is it just to check off a box? Or really, and this is what it should be, is it to meet with God? Mm-hmm. Is it to get close to Him? My Bible reading shouldn't be just to finish a chapter. Yeah. My Bible reading shouldn't be just to, again, check off the devotional. My prayer life shouldn't be just to only tell God my issues. It should be to meet with Him. Mm-hmm. It should be to talk with Him. If God is the goal, and I know that sounds very vague or very broad, but if God is the goal and everything that comes with it, being in His presence, growing closer to Him, any of that stuff, if God is the goal, then we'll want to have a desire to be consistent. Yeah. Why? Because we just want to be in His presence again. Yeah. We want to hear from Him again. We want to grow closer to Him. And so, I mean, obviously, we could get into today and, well, let's remove the distractions, take away the phone, or start small with things, and those are very, again, applicable things when it comes to starting. Again, no different than whatever your best was that you did at the gym the other day. We
won't talk about that.
You didn't, or what you're striving for. You didn't start with that.
Yeah.
Like Chance was talking about, he didn't start with that.
Yeah.
There's obviously, again, very practical things that are good to know. Okay, so if you want to get better in your Bible reading, as far as just on a consistent level, start smaller. Okay, don't click on the Bible in a Year app. All right, start small. Read for a time of the day, 5 minutes.
I'm gonna start reading my Bible, and I'm gonna read through it. I'm gonna read the whole thing this year.
Yes,
Don't do that.
I'm gonna read through my Bible in a year, and then learn Greek and Hebrew and all this stuff. Okay, so again, start small. I mean, set a timer for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is better than no minutes. All right. If your prayer life is lacking, again, set a time for it, whatever it may be. Obviously, we can give you and will give you the practical things. And we've talked about this, I know, in some other episodes. Again, remove the distractions. Look, get this thing away from you when you're trying to do that stuff. But before any of that, ask yourself, what's the goal? Mm-hmm. If it's God and meeting with Him and growing close to Him, and you hunger for the right things, as that verse says, you hunger and thirst after righteousness, then you're going to want to keep going back. Yeah. It's going to be the best thing that you've taken in, and it's going to help sustain you, and it's going to want to keep you coming back for more.
We've said this in the past, on a past episode, with kind of talking about Bible reading, and I'll say it again, and I'll argue this point with anybody. I would rather you read 2 verses and meet with God
Yes.
than you read the whole Bible in a year and get nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not about there is no magic number for any of it. There is, spending 30 minutes with God every morning. That's great. But if you sat by yourself and didn't meet with him, it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
You've got to set the goal as, he wants to spend more time with you than you want to spend with him. He wants to get he wants a better friendship and more fellowship with you than you want for anybody else.
Yeah.
And make him the goal. It's always about Jesus, always about the gospel. And when he's the goal, you go into your Bible reading saying, Lord, I want you to speak to me today.
Yeah.
And you might get that in a chapter. You might not get that in 10 chapters. You might not get that in a day. But setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Don't set yourself up with it. Don't give Christ a number.
Yeah.
Give him your life and just let him build what he wants to build with it.
Yeah.
And you'll set yourself up for success.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a freeing thing as a Christian when you don't make him a task, but you give him what he needs.
Yeah.
And we can't. We've got to rip up the Christian chore chart, and we've got to get rid of it.
Amen. I like it. Guys, listen. Big question of the day. What are you hungering for?
Yep.
What's your goal? We've said it a lot of times. Maybe we need to make a t-shirt. Is God on the chore chart? Or is he something that you long for? As that verse said, do you hunger and thirst after righteousness? I promise you, if that's the case, if he's the goal, you'll find yourself coming back for more. So, guys, we hope this has been a help to you. Maybe you need a little reset to get it back into those consistencies with God. But if you hunger for them, I promise you'll see that change in life. Guys, we appreciate you. Hope this has been a help to you. We'll see you on the next episode.
Appreciate y'all.